Welcome to lesson 71 of A Course in Miracles. Only God's plan for salvation will work. And I'm just going to read a little bit. You may not realize that the ego has set up a plan for salvation in opposite to God's. It is this plan in which you believe. Since it is the opposite of God's, you also believe that to accept God's plan in place of the ego's is to be damned. So this is the lesson before, lesson 70, says that salvation is within me. Yeah, so let's just look at my salvation comes from me. Yeah, my salvation comes from me. It cannot come from anywhere else. Now what it says is that only God's plan for salvation will work. So where do we find salvation? And yesterday we were looking at if salvation is within me, then salvation has to be within the space within me that is silent, that is divine, that is truly connected to God, to the divine. And remember that we're looking at the two minds. We've been looking at the two minds for all the lessons. The mind that is driven by the ego and the mind that is driven by God. So these two minds are constantly happening. And we can identify these two minds. For example, the mind of the ego, the one that tells us, many, things and constant chatting, and it makes us feel really bad. And the mind of the God is those thoughts that sometimes come out of nowhere, really, and you go, oh wow, that was really wise. Oh, that's funny that I know that. How do I know that? So the mind of God is that clarity, that wisdom that seems to come up, from who knows where. So what it says here is that only God's plan for salvation will work. And this is a total surrender to God. A total surrender to God, like waking up in the morning and going, okay, God, I offer this day to you. So what do you want me to do? Please guide me through the day and I will follow your guidance. It's like a total surrender to the divine, and just fully trusting that what the divine is guiding you to is the right path. So the lesson says, what would you have me do? Where would you have me go? What would you have me say, and to whom? And this is a surrender. So we think that we want to say that, and we think that we want to do that, and we think that we want to do that and go here, but it's like, okay, God, I am at your service. You guide me through the day. You have me going where you want me to go, where I am needed according to your plan. And this is a complete crash with the ego, because the ego likes to, direct us and guide us and have a plan, and this is the way, and to achieve that you have to do this, and to get there you have to do that, and that's all mind and mental doing. Whereas the mind of God is, okay, in this silence that I don't really know where to go or what to do or what to say, I surrender to you, and I trust that what you are asking me to do and to say is the right thing. And obviously this is, we're talking about something that it feels peaceful, that wants peace for me and for others, that we are in this peace together. I mean, obviously you know, sometimes the ego mind tells us horrible things. You know, they actually, the ego mind tells us sometimes to do quite horrible things. You know, like if you hear your voices, sometimes it's like, wow, where does this comes from? And the idea is not to get scared from, you know, these thoughts that just keep coming into our mind, but just to stop and go, no, this is not the mind of God talking to me. This is not the voice of God talking to me. This is the ego. And I'm just going to stop and find peace within and connect to myself, so I can actually hear myself and the voice of God and the guidance. So that's why it says that only God's plan for salvation will work. So we think that we know what to do, we think what is correct, we know what's correct, what is right, and the reality is that many times we don't. Holding grievance is the opposite of God's plan for salvation, and only his plan will work. And this goes back to forgiveness, and within forgiveness I find peace, and grievance blocks my light and blocks the light of others. So we just keep understanding and going down into this understanding and about which voice do we choose to follow. And this is a practice and a decision moment by moment. Yeah. So just do the usual practice as we always do in, you know, sometimes, you know, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever time you have, to go through this idea and to look at this idea and see what this means, and see if you can start truly identifying those voices that are just driving you crazy, with this crazy, keeping you in the past and judging everybody and judging yourself. And if you can hear the voice of God and the guidance, the clear voice that keeps you safe, that keeps you at peace, and that takes you through the right path. Yeah. So just practice. Just practice and see how you go. And I'll see you tomorrow for lesson 72.